The federal government just deleted an access to information document instead of sending it to me. And the government document that I was asking for, well, it could have shown me how the Public Health Agency of Canada was advising staff to snow journalists who were fishing around about the firings at the Winnipeg Virology Lab. The government's not even trying to hide what they're doing anymore. Today, I'll show you their absolutely audacious reply to my request for information. Today, I'm going to show you something very, very strange, something I've never seen before in my many, many years of reading and research related to access to information. The federal government has not only decided to withhold information from us, which frankly, that's nothing new. They withhold information from us all the time. Then they delay, sometimes for years, and then they fight us, and then they give us exorbitant fees. But in the end, we usually get some of the information we ask for, or at least we make the government turn over something, go through the motions. Even if the pages are largely redacted, at least the feds try to comply or pretend to comply with Canada's privacy and information laws. Oh, but not this time. When we got back this latest reply from the government, I could hardly believe my eyes because it's so brazen and so shameless. But they know they can get away with it, or at least, boy, they're sure going to try. But first, we have to go back a little to give context to the story. 2 scientists from China were removed from Winnipeg's National Microbiology Laboratory in July 2019, and they were later fired by the agency. So the Conservative Party, well, they've been asking for documents that they think will contain details about whether the firing of the scientists was linked to the fact that 4 months prior to the scientists having their security clearances revoked, one of 2 of them sent a shipment of Ebola and Henipaviruses to the Wuhan Institute of Virology back in March 2019. That's the same lab that is now credibly accused of releasing, either on purpose or by accident, the coronavirus that went on to cause a global pandemic. It's also the same lab that Justin Trudeau gave nearly $900,000 of your dollars to do coronavirus research at the beginning of the pandemic. Now, we'll get back to these specific documents that the Conservatives want in a second. We knew a note existed wherein the Public Health Agency of Canada had sent a memo to their staff about the Winnipeg Free Press and their coverage of what was unfolding at the Winnipeg lab. But we didn't know the details of the memo. The government's response to me, as you'll see in a second, is confirmation that that memo exists, but I'm not sure I'm ever going to get a chance to see it. However, I tried. We filed for access to information from the government prior to COVID. We wanted all emails from September 5th to November 4th, 2019 about the Winnipeg Free Press and a note sent to staff regarding the newspaper's coverage of the National Microbiology Lab. And this is what they did. The file has been deleted from the Open Government website as it contains personal information. This access request is now closed. Now, I might entertain this excuse if the excuse were about national security, but they say it's about privacy, and I'm reliably informed that privacy isn't really a thing in this country anymore since we had to tell our flight attendants and bartenders whether or not we had a vaccine these days. What on earth do they think they're doing? If a file contains personal information that the person mentioned doesn't want to be released, as in that person is a member of the public who doesn't work for the government in any official capacity, you normally just redact their name and carry on. You don't delete the whole file. But the government literally admits to deleting a government document so that we can't see this information. Not sketchy at all. I would call this a cover-up, but they're not even trying to cover anything up. They're just doing this right out in the public, in the open, and they're telling us that they're doing it. It's bold, I'll give them that. Now, on some level, I'm kind of envious of their confidence that they think they're going to get away with all of this. But that should come as no surprise because they're trying to do this somewhere else. The federal government is asking a court to block release of those documents relating to the scandal that I mentioned earlier. The ones I told you about where Conservative MPs are asking about Ebola and Henipaviruses being transferred to the Wuhan Virology Institute, and then the scientists involved just being fired. The Public Health Agency of Canada is required to release these documents, but they refuse to. 2 copies of those documents related to the firing of those 2 researchers at the Winnipeg lab were presented to the House of Commons. An unredacted version was given to MPs with high-level security clearances who sit on the National Security and Intelligence Committee. which means those documents and the information in it will remain secret unless they're released in the House of Commons to other committees. Now, a redacted version was given to MPs on the Canada-China Relations Committee, which made those documents completely useless. Now, I'm going to keep asking for my documents. I want to know if and when the cover-up started and who was behind it. I want to know what they were telling staff at the Public Health Agency of Canada to say to journalists who were investigating the scandal at the Winnipeg lab and the firings therein. Now, I'm going to have to obviously get creative with my access to information requests, and I'm going to need some help to do it in a couple of different ways. First of all, this stuff takes time and it takes money. So if you'd like to help donate to offset our filing fees, please consider making a donation at rebelinvestigates.com. And I'm going to need some research help. We've got an expert who is not only the best researcher in the business, but he's also the best at filing for access to information. He knows how to word a request and where to send it and how to hit the government from all different directions so that they don't even have a chance to start another cover-up. Now, our researcher, he doesn't work for free. Who does, right? So if you'd like to help offset our research costs, please consider making a donation at that same website I just mentioned, rebelinvestigates.com. And thank you to everybody who donates and continues to donate to enable us to ask these important questions that clearly the Liberal government does not want you to have the answers to. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. At Rebel News, we ask tough questions to politicians and government agencies that we think you deserve answers to. One of the ways we do that is through access to information filings. It's one thing to dodge a question in the House of Commons. It's hard to dodge a paper trail question coming at you through access to information, but these things take time and they take money. If you'd like to help offset our research costs, not only for this story, but for other things that we are also working on, please consider making a donation at rebelinvestigates.com.